Hey guys, it's Dennis here with Revog Games. I'm joined by...
Joshua Weyers, all the way in South Africa. And we got a flip
Yeah,
this time, Dennis. It's the
yeah,
morning for me, it's the evening for you.
yeah, exactly. And this is our weekly podcast. We're trying to do this on Friday, but like both of our schedules didn't match up. But we are, going to talk about some video game news. Before we do that, I think... Was it last week or the week before where I announced the game that we were working on?
The week before. It would have been last week if we did this podcast on time.
Okay, So pick up basketball VR. If you guys have any VR system, it's coming out not this Friday, but the next Friday on the 26th. It's an early access. So the game's done. You can play it. It has all the different modes online, but it's not fully polished yet. And there's some things we want to add to it. But yeah, check out that trailer. I tweeted it out just for, if you're a fan of VR and you're a fan of this podcast, I will be giving away some Steam keys. So I'd say the first two people who retweet the trailer off of either my Twitter account or the Revog Games Twitter account, I will send you a couple Steam keys. Anyways,
Hell yeah.
I'll give you two. The winner, there's two winners, and each winner will get two keys because it's more fun if you have someone else to play with. Play 3-point contest, one-on-one. I mean, there's 2v2, but maybe you can team up with someone else to battle another person.
Some 3v3, man. Hell yeah.
So, all right, let's move on to our topics. The big one. There's a lot of I really wanted to do the news last week, but Last of Us. Well, the first thing that actually happened, it was all on the same day, was like first they announced that what's her name?
I forget as well. The person
the girl
who's
that
playing,
plays Lyanna Mormont in Game of Thrones, the one that everyone loved because she was like this small little girl, but she was like kicking ass and telling older people how weak they were. Which hilariously, her last name is actually Ramsay, Bella Ramsay. So, which is funny. Anyway, she got cast to play Ellie in the Last of Us TV series that's coming on HBO. And
Macy Williams isn't. No, wait, that's not it. Oh, this was what people thought who was going to be playing it. My bad.
Yeah. And then
she was considered. That's it.
Yeah, and so then they started talking about who would play Joel, and I know there was the rumor, and I think it might even be more than a rumor that it kind of went out to Mahershala Ali, like the offer either was made or discussed or something like that, like. But apparently either he turned it down or it didn't work out or whatever. So it ended up going to Pedro Pascal, of also Game of Thrones fame, who played the Red Viper. Also more famously right now for The Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm.
And, they're two interesting choices. I like them both, but I didn't really like Mahershala Ali. I think is a fantastic actor, but I didn't really get like Joel vibe off of him necessarily. But I feel like Pedro Pascal, I think he can pull it off. I was thinking, was I talking with you? Who was I talking with about like possibly someone like, we already had Hugh Jackman play Old Man Logan in Logan, which was basically the X-Men version of Last of Us. So you wouldn't have him, but people were talking about people like even Game of Thrones alumni as well. Nikolai Costa-Waldau. I don't know exactly how to pronounce his name, but the guy who played Jaime Lannister.
Oh yeah.
As one. Carl Urban was a good one that was being thrown around. So there was a lot of good choices. What do you think of this casting?
Man, I'll tell you what, because this has been something I've been thinking about for a while. Every single time we bring up The Last of Us, whether it's the video game or it's the HBO show, I've like so many people went through my head initially as a casting choice, and I didn't even consider Pedro Pascal, who I love, who is a phenomenal actor, just really genuine, and he's had a great like couple 2-3 years. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
really like good for him. His career has really been blowing up.
He was in Narcos, Mandalorian,
Exactly,
Game of
yeah.
Thrones. He was in The Wonder
He was
Woman.
so good
Even
in
though
Narcos
I
as
didn't
well.
like that movie, he was actually good in
Yep.
it.
He's been killing it. So here's the thing. I don't think he looks like Joel. I think he looks a little bit like Joel, but there are a lot of other actors that look way more. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But I don't think that's gonna matter. I think what's gonna matter at the end of the day is the fact that he's gonna kill it. He's gonna bring Joel to life more so than I think other actors could have or would have. Because I feel like most other actors, especially just with where Pedro Pascal is right now in his career, he's been
Mhm.
taking he's just been doing good. Whether he's taking it seriously or putting in the effort, I don't even know. Maybe he's just naturally. All I know is things are going well right now, and he's putting out quality work right now. So I know for a fact that following that, like this, he's just gonna smash this. So much so that after I read this, I already forgot all the people I had in mind for this, who I would have wanted to play Joel. All the people that I was considering, I can't even remember a single name of the people I considered. You know what I mean? Like, it makes sense to me. I don't know. Like when I read this, I was like, oh, duh, of course. It's obvious. He's the obvious choice for this. Like especially because he is now a big name, and you want to have a big name lead the show. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
he's got that. He's got that going for him. I was so worried that they were going to put like an A-lister in this position who was just going to give us. I wouldn't say subpar acting, but not Joel. Like they would have given us a great acting, but they wouldn't have given us Joel. You know what I mean? Like not like I mean they never would have used Brad Pitt for this, but if they did, Brad Pitt would have just been Brad Pitt as Joel. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like Pedro Pascal, he's gonna be Joel. He's not gonna be Pedro Pascal as Joel. He's gonna be Joel. Like, and I think that that's pretty cool. I'm not like there's a lot of other actors that would have done a good job too. I think, but like Pedro Pascal really is like I said, he looks close enough to the role, especially in this picture that you chose, like the one behind me. He looks close enough where it's like honestly, you give that guy a full beard and you won't even like notice the difference really if you think about it, you know. Now I'm excited for that, and then Bella Ramsey as well. My only issue is I wonder if she's too young to play that role,
Well,
or
it's
if
been a
she
few
is.
years since Game of Thrones, so she's definitely gotten
Yeah,
older. I think that's where I'm a more of a question mark on her, even though like many people, I loved her on Game of Thrones, but I haven't seen her in anything
yeah,
else, and two, she's
exactly.
grown since that time. I mean, Game of Thrones is now season 8 was what, 2 or 3 years ago
Oh,
now.
wow, yeah, you got a good point there.
I
Well,
think
to
it's
be
at
fair,
least
because
two
I
years.
was
Yeah.
considering maybe they're casting her because she's young, considering the long game. You know what I mean? Maybe they're
hmm
expecting this series to go on for a lot longer. You know what I mean? Doing the role when she's older as well. You know,
Yeah, I'm
as
looking at a recent picture. She looks, much.
she does look a bit older now.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
looked at her IMDb.
So,
Still has like a very innocent looking face. So I'm
yeah,
curious to. Then again, I guess that's the beauty of acting. Like we'll see what she can
yeah,
bring to this character
yeah,
and give at least some more edge. You know.
yeah, and also,
All in all,
with
great news.
cast,
I haven't heard a single person complain about this.
and casting is always like, yes, you kind of want the character to or the actor to look like the character that you've seen before, whether it's a video game or comic book or whatnot. But you don't have to. It doesn't have to be exact. It's more about one, can they act, and two, can they capture the character, the spirit of the character, and this is things that we won't know yet from them. Like remember, everyone loves Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Hugh Jackman is 6 foot what compared to
He's
Wolverine in the
big, yeah.
comic. In the comics he's like a short guy, so it's not
Did you
exactly
know a little
what.
bit of trivia here? Did you know that originally somebody else was cast as Wolverine, and they actually started
Oh,
production,
did they?
and then like I think like a week into production, they found Hugh Jackman, and he was just much better. Like he was the Wolverine, man. Like
Happens, man.
Imagine being that guy that was the Wolverine for that 1 week before. I mean, keep in mind the way Hollywood works is that guy still got paid. You know what I mean? It's not like he got
Yeah, but
shafted.
people think about, oh, what would my career have been if I had done this or that?
Oh,
I
that's
mean,
true. That's
because
true.
like you speaking of Game of Thrones, you had Emilia Clarke, who played Khaleesi in Game of Thrones, and they had someone else in that role before, and I think they shot the whole pilot too, and they recast her entire, both the mom, Mama Stark, Catelyn.
Oh yeah, yeah.
She was also recast as well. I mean, she didn't end up becoming like a huge. I mean, not that Emilia Clarke is like huge star, but I mean, she's been a lead in several movies now. She's pretty famous. So it's like, okay. So I'm sure whoever you're talking about in
Oh, here, yeah. Doug Ray Scott. Doug Ray, and the reason why, actually, I had this wrong. I just had to look it up now. It's actually essentially Tom Cruise didn't let him be because he was doing Mission Impossible at the time. So Tom Cruise was like, "No, you don't. You got to stay and finish the film. You don't have time to go do your silly little superhero movie." So essentially, because of Tom Cruise, Doug Ray Scott, who now that I see his face, I actually do recognize him. I don't recognize his name though. But yeah, he couldn't be the Wolverine because he was. Well, that's also like, look, you've got obligations. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
So it's not like he got screwed. Once again, he didn't get screwed out of the role per se. He was still in a movie. He was still in Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise. You know, so
you never know. You never know what would happen.
yeah, you don't know what's gonna blow up. Like, I guarantee you, half the people on Stranger Things was not expecting it to blow up that big.
No.
You know what I mean? I bet you Winona Ryder was sitting there going, "Thank God I'm getting paid more than anyone else on season 1 because I don't think this is gonna do good." You know? Now it's like, because I remember like season 1, those kids were getting paid about 15 grand an episode, which is I think like standard union standard kind of thing. And now they're getting like, well, depending on which kid it is, they're getting like $200,000 an episode. You know?
Makes sense.
But yeah, that's life, man. That's Hollywood.
Yeah. So anything else about these castings? Like I said, like I think they're both good. I'm not my first choice for either one, but when I say first choice, I don't mean that to be like, ooh, they suck, or I totally wanted someone. It was just in my mind, I thought of different actors for the roles, but that doesn't mean they can't kill it in these particular ones. So
I mean, for me, I completely agree. I'm in the same thing where it's like I can think of a bunch of other actors that could have done just as good of a job, maybe even better, but I think that they are in a much higher paid bracket. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying not shaming Pedro. He's probably in a very high paid bracket as well, but like I mean, Pedro he's a TV star. You know what I mean? He's a TV series star. He's a series. I don't know of Pedro being in any movies. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where he's not really getting that movie star salary, but you're getting pretty close to it. You know, especially with having done Game of Thrones, Narcos, The Mandalorian. You're working with Disney. You're probably getting paid close to a movie star salary, I'd imagine. But yeah, Pedro Pascal just makes sense to me in terms of like bang for your buck. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how much he costs, but I guarantee you they're probably going to get more acting out of him for his price than you would out of somebody who you're going to probably pay double the amount to get the same kind of acting skills. You know, it's one of those things where like it's a financial decision that makes sense to me as well. Like, I feel like he's going to be, like I said, the other people who could do this well are probably going to cost 2 times more and might not even be worth it. You know.
Yeah. All right.
And he seems like he brings a good energy to set as well. Like, everyone always talks about that. He's like kind of goofy as well. So he's lighthearted. He's not that serious. And you usually need someone like that on set, from my experience, to keep things moving. I wouldn't say smoothly, but to keep things moving without any drama. You know, you need that icebreaker guy on set, or you need that kind of like nice, goofy guy.
All right.
Nobody's mad about this as well. I think we all know. Everybody's happy with this casting.
I'm sure there's some people.
Oh yeah, with The Last of Us, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next topic. This one is it's a story that we had, but now it's a non-story. Anyways, there was this job posting that had suggested that there was going to be a new Halo project, and so everyone was speculating, what is this? Is it going to be Halo Wars 3? Is it going to be something different? But then they kind of found out, oh, no. It was just a posting for Halo Infinite. So there was no, they kind of I think they reused an old job posting, so it made it sound like it was a new project, but the new project was something that was already being worked on, which was Halo Infinite. So they kind of cleared the air that, hey, no, we're not working on Halo Wars 3. We're not working on some other Halo type game, a new project in the Halo universe.
I completely forgot about Halo Wars, man. Wow. Like, thanks for that, Jim. Actually, you know what? Halo Wars 3 that sounds like a pretty good idea, to be honest. Well, I can't believe I completely forgot about that. Sorry to interrupt you. That just blew my mind.
I never played it. I probably should try it out because now it's on
it's on Game Pass. Yeah,
I should check it out. I just never thought like, hey, because it was for the console, but now they have an
RTS
PC
games
now,
don't
right?
work that well on console.
Yeah,
they got on PC and it makes more sense. And I know you like your RTS games. So give it a try if you like your RTS games.
So even though that thing got shot down, I did want to say, if let's say the rumor actually ended up being true, and they were working on a Halo game that had nothing to do with Halo Infinite or the standard FPS game that they normally do, what would you want to see from the Halo franchise?
Honestly, if we're not talking about if we're talking about something Halo related, but not necessarily Halo or Halo Wars. People are gonna think I'm crazy for this, but I feel like an action platformer would be kind of cool in the Halo world. Like,
what kind of action platform? Like
I think of games where it's like, because especially like when I saw the trailer for Halo Infinite, they had the grappling hook, right? I was thinking to myself, like, how much more fun would Halo be if you added way more like of those mechanics, of those like platforming, getting around kind of mechanics, and like. I guess at that point it would still be an FPS. It would just be like an FPS with a lot more movement options. You know what I mean? Like more Unreal Tournament ish somewhere like you played Titanfall 2, kind of like somewhere like that movement, but like amplified more, almost goofy. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm just craving Unreal Tournament. I think that's what's happening here. I have a craving for Unreal Tournament. I haven't had a game like that in a while. A good like arena shooter. You know what? Honestly. It's still in that same realm, but I feel like Halo could do a really good arena shooter, We haven't had a good arena shooter in a long time. I think Halo could do a really fun arena shooter, set it in that world, give it like a goofy spin-off where it's like kind of like Apex Legends, where it's like it's a show, you know what I mean? Like, because the world of Halo it's fairly serious, but hey, maybe we can have an arena where it's like a gladiator type thing where people are people are watching and somehow try to work it into the lore. But I would like either an arena shooter or honestly this sounds stupid, but I would also kind of like a Mario Kart-esque racing game from them. I bet you people listening to this right now are thinking, what the hell am I saying? What am I thinking? But I think about, there was this old game I used to play called Jack X Racing. It was set on the Jack and Daxter universe. And it was just like a much more fast-paced Mario Kart. And I was like, I would like that, man. Like, there was that genre where it wasn't, I guess it's the Mario Kart genre, where it's like a lot of games were like about racing but also blowing up your enemy while racing, you know what I mean? And I feel like there's not really a lot of those games anymore. Well, I guess they had Crash Team Nitro Racing, but that really is very Mario Kart-esque. I want something more fast-paced with guns, I'd love to just be in a race with a bunch of other people in their warthogs, you know what I mean? Just shooting each other while like trying to get from point A to point B. There's a lot of things they could do, honestly. They could even do like a Telltale choose your own adventure kind of game, even, you know what I mean? Like very story heavy. But no, I don't know. That's not what I would have, honestly, like my guess would have been probably some kind of action RPG, but set in the Halo universe,
Yeah.
Imagine Master Chief with a war axe,
Yeah, but could you do it third person? Or would you have to
if it was action RPG, it would have to be third person, because it's so satisfying to see like you swinging your melee weapon, because look, you get your melee weapons in Halo, but it's never really something focused on, you know what I mean? So I think it would be cool to see a game where it's like you have a character who is more melee influenced. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Doesn't mean that everyone has to use melee guns. Like I'm sure people can still shoot you and you use a shield or whatever. But I feel like that would be quite cool. Is if they gave us like Master Chief, but more, I don't know, like more melee. Give him like a giant axe or something, or like some big ass great sword. Start. I don't know. Like there's a lot of things that like something new, something fresh would be interesting to see. Like maybe not Dynasty Warriors esque, but like I don't know, like there's a lot of room there for like some kind of action RPG. I think not action RPG, but action adventure. Sorry, that's what I think.
I mean the thing, I mean, I would love to see a Halo game set in some sort of open world RPG, but I just don't know if that pace works well with the Halo franchise because the Halo's.
I just don't think RPGs would work well. Like with,
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people would disagree with me, but I would like the RPG mechanics. Like in a game like that, I feel like you would spend so much time in the mechanics of the RPG mechanics, and then you would like your combat's gonna last like 5 minutes, and it's like you spent like 20 minutes adjusting your skill points.
Where Halo's all about like action,
just action. Yeah, that's why I'm saying like if they did like an action adventure, but focused instead of being an FPS, did like a third person style, and focused more on like. I mean, you can't just do melee in the Halo universe, but if they had like a better mix of melee and like guns, but I think they could get away with like third person,
they
doing something quite fun.
I mean,
there,
you had Red Dead Redemption is third person that uses guns more than melee weapons. My concern is just more about the pacing of it, Like
I tell you what, I would love is if Halo. Honestly, if they also just released a Halo strictly multiplayer game, if they just released a Halo that was strictly multiplayer, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying like their own battle royale or something. I don't think.
Well, they are doing their free to play battle royale game.
I don't think.
I think that's why it's getting delayed.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna. It's the market's so oversaturated. I don't think it's gonna. Look, I think it's gonna do well initially, and then like. Even Warzone, which was the top dog, like they're doing well now again, but only because they finally ended up banning like hundreds and thousands of hackers. Because for like months, people would just stop playing the game because there were too many hackers. Everyone's like, "What's the point of playing the game? You're just gonna bump into a hacker, get your time ruined,"
Yeah.
So they fixed that. I think the Halo battle royale and well, the multiplayer I think the multiplayer I already know is gonna do well for a very long time. You know what I mean? But their battle royale, I think it's going to do well in the beginning and then kind of sizzle out. Unless they really keep pumping in like new things in there, and I don't mean like new guns, but they got to put.
It really depends.
They got to put some experiences
Honestly,
in there.
Depends on how much money they make. That's
true
the thing.
as well.
If they make a lot of money from it, they'll pump more resources into it. I mean, that's kind of like the catch-22 with these free-to-play games, whether they're battle royale or not, is that
you got to have games as a service. You got to have your microtransactions. Yeah,
and so if you're making that money back, you can do whatever, and you can give that back to the consumer. But if you're not, then it's like, well, then are you going to spend more money to keep them around, even though you're not getting the return on it? So it's tough. It's tough.
Here's what I think a lot of people would enjoy, and I think a lot of people want this, but they just don't know they want it yet, which is somewhere a cross between Halo and Battlefield, where it's like it's just Halo, but the maps are huge, and there's like 64 maybe 100 players on a map kind of thing, and it's like big teams, like 32 against 32, you know what I mean? Like those are things that I think people would like, or like I think of like Unreal Tournament 3, which is pretty old now. Like they had, was it Unreal Tournament? They had these game modes where it's like you have to capture certain areas, you know what I mean? And then advance on, and whichever team has the most amount of areas, it's not capture the flag, but you're like essentially like king of the hill, but there's different type of areas. I don't know, like I think that would work really well, is if Halo did something where it's like they have much bigger maps, much bigger player sizes, and then different game modes where it's like you get to work in like coordination with bigger teams, add more vehicles, add like, literally like honestly straight up just like a Halo / Battlefield game would be amazing. Where you have your air, you got your ground vehicles, your air vehicles, you know what I mean? Your different roles that people can play. I think that would do really well. I know that they did something, well not Halo, but like I know that Quake did it a long time ago. Wow, that took me. My brain sizzled out for a second. Quake, like one of the last games that they released, I think, was their own version of like Battlefield, but set in the world of Quake, where it's like you have your own vehicles as well, helicopters, planes. You know what I mean? It was literally, and I had so much fun with that. I just don't think it blew up. I don't think it did very well. But yeah, that would be sick. Halo, but like Battlefield, and it's very doable for them. You know what I mean? It's not really out of their element. You know, it's still first-person shooter kind of thing. I think that would be sick. I think people would like that as well.
All right, let's move on to the next topic. We've got Black Myth Wukong official Year of the Ox gameplay trailer. So this was like a huge viral hit last year when the first trailer came out. No one had heard about this game. I mean, when I mean no one, I mean the general public. And then it came out and it kind of just blew up. It comes from a fairly small team in China.
Less than 10 people, I think.
Yeah, I'm sure it's grown since that time because I'm sure they got a lot more investors at that point. But man, this gameplay trailer, I don't know how many.
It's amazing.
I don't know what, like, how many people are on the team now, but this is like AAA quality now. You know what I mean? Like, if you see this
is next
game,
gen quality, dude.
Yeah, but when you see it, it's like the graphics and the animation. This is not. They're not. It doesn't look like they're skimping out on anything. I mean, look. I don't know how the game will play. Maybe the game plays like ass. Who knows? But judging from just purely the videos and the trailers that we've seen in this latest one, it looks top. Like, how did they do all this animation work and character model work and
in the short amount of time? I mean, it's been what? Like, it's been less than a year since that previous video we watched, I think.
Yeah, it's been less than a year. Yeah,
it's been less than a year. So like that's an insane amount of progress. For me, the thing that stands out the most is that like they really cleaned up the animations. The animations were really good in the first place, but like now they're really good. And I don't just mean all the the visual effects. I mean like the actual movement, specifically on Wukong himself. Like there's a couple of like I'm rewatching the trailer now again because it's so good. But there's just like him like standing, like his normal like walking animation looks a lot more clean and natural. Like him like moving his head, like certain things, it just tracks better, and like they've really tightened up and cleaned up Wukong himself. Like the player, like they put a lot of effort into the player character, which is great. Dude, it's so impressive. I'm so excited for this game, and it's one of those things where, considering how much progress we've seen them make in this past, like I want to say 9 or 10 months, this is not going to be a game that we're going to see in 5 or 6 years. We're going to see this game in like a year or two, you know what I mean? It's gonna it's like that's what I'm getting. They gotta hit when it's gonna happen soon.
They gotta hit it when the hype and momentum is on their side. They've got to release it sometime this year.
Yeah. Anything later than mid next year, and that would be a loss, I think.
Yeah, you know I think they go for the juggler and come out this
December
holiday season. Yeah, like November, that would be October, smart. November. I think that if they want to, you know. Yeah, I think that the latest is first quarter of 2022, I think, for this game. But, like, because you've got it, the whole gaming world is, like, totally, like, falling in love with this.
We're transfixed, man. They didn't really show this in the new trailer, but, like, one of the things I'm still most excited for about this is going through the different versions of Wukong.
Yeah, he has the different powers that can transform into different
staffs, Yeah. So he has like the different staffs that like allow him to have the different powers, and they like I'm still blown away by the fact that also like I mean you grew up with this.
Yes.
I grew up with iterations of this just from being a nerd and a geek. You know what I mean? So I've grown up through like obviously my first iteration of Wukong was Goku from Dragon Ball Z, who was loosely based on Wukong. Mm-hmm. But then like I just fell in love with the story of like of the Monkey King in general. There's so many wonderful stories. And amazing Chinese movies as well about
there's Wukong, the live action, there's animated, there's comic books.
There was a trilogy recently that was like pretty good. Like it's just called Wukong, I think, or the Monkey King was the English translation. It was just really good, high budget trilogy about it. And then you also like in the Forbidden Kingdom, which I loved. A lot of people hated that movie. I loved that movie with whatchamacallit, it was Jet Li, Jackie Chan, and then that kid who I thought was going to become a celebrity, but just I guess fell off the face of the earth from Sky High, or whatever his name was. I love that movie. And then he like you got Wukong, like what was Jet Li was Wukong in that? I think Jet Li was like, or because he played both characters. He played himself, and then he also played like Wukong, I think, in that, and that was amazing. But in the original trailer, they showed, the trailer we saw a year ago, they showed him fighting on the clouds, and that's such an iconic scene. Like, I can't wait to be fighting on the clouds, man. Oh, and you get Nimbus, you get your own little flying cloud, bro. Come on, I'm there for it. I'm so excited.
Yeah. So another big kind of trailer that helped push the momentum even bigger. Hype even bigger, so can't wait to see that. I'm surprised that like a PlayStation
blew my mind,
or Microsoft, Sony or Microsoft hadn't like come in and be like, "Hey, exclusive for our platform. Here's a bunch of money."
Do you think it's because it's a Chinese company and they're like they gotta worry about copyright issues and like the great Chinese firewall and things like that? Because I just know like when it comes to,
I don't think there's any.
Yeah. I just know buying, like, because like there is a slight risk in, well, like, you can collaborate with Chinese companies, but I know that there's like a slight risk in buying your own Chinese company, in the sense. Well, actually, I don't know. It like no. Sorry, the risk is the other way around.
Buying, you're just trying to.
Chinese owned, yeah.
You're just trying to get
it's weird how like the rules even work. Exactly, yeah. No, honestly, like what I'm surprised by is how no one's jumped in as a distributor yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's surprising to me. Like, or like, you know, like getting, like I wouldn't want a studio to buy this. I want these people to do their own thing and like be left alone to do their own thing, because I think they're going to give us the best game that way. But for sure, I'm surprised by the fact that no big publishers or distributors have joined in yet. Sorry, I got a phone call.
Yeah, it's coming out on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. So there's no. It was August when we saw that.
Yeah, so it wasn't even that long ago. Yeah, that's crazy.
That 13-minute pre-alpha gameplay trailer. So.
Yeah. Oh, and then going back because I forgot to mention this. Just going back.
It says they plan to release in 2023. Ooh, that's a little long.
Oh, I mean, how they look? It's possible to keep the hype going, but then they got to keep some secrets. I think, you know what I mean. Before you show us another gameplay trailer, maybe like hide a couple epic boss fights. You know what I mean? Like, 'cause there's gonna be epic boss fights in this game. I think like I think in like 2022 maybe. They should release like another video of like a couple epic boss fights just to keep people going, keep people interested. How are they going to keep the hype going till that point? I mean, it's possible when you have big studios. I mean, you need a lot of money for marketing, you know? A lot of money for that kind of marketing.
Yeah, 2023 is a while. I mean, 2022 is already kind of pushing it, but you could still do it. But 2023, it's a long time away. People tend to move
going
on.
Back to the Last of Us news real quick. I forgot to mention this. They said pre-production. Pre-production is going to take the longest out of the entire process, which is interesting to me, because usually that's either production or post-production. But yeah, pre-production they said is going to take the longest time, and they should hopefully start filming being full on production towards the end of this year. So we should be seeing the show on HBO next year. Maybe early next year, but probably mid next year.
Yeah.
For the Last of Us show.
Too soon. Especially with the pandemic still going on.
Unless they're doing post-production whilst releasing it like weekly, which I don't think they're going to do. They're going to probably release it all in one.
I mean, they do that. They do that. I know, like when Game of Thrones was coming out, like they were still doing post on later episodes, especially visual effects. Like a lot of the edits may be locked, but like they had.
They might do that.
Effects. Because I remember I used to get screener copies like a week or two before Game of Thrones came out, and I would watch them and be like, "Oh, here's this," and the visual effects not quite done yet, you know. So.
Okay, yeah. So I just thought I'd mention that. I've completely forgot to bring that up.
All right, moving on to our next thing. This was a big news topic.
Yeah.
CD Projekt Red. They basically got hacked and they had a cyber attack, and a lot of source code was stolen from Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk 2077, and then they left a ransom note, which CD Projekt Red basically came out and said, we're not paying that. We're not going to be, blackmailed into doing this. And apparently all that stuff was sold on the dark web. They had a $7 million price tag. I don't know. It's weird. It's like, one, who's buying this? And for what purpose are they buying it?
Exactly. I mean, look, the only people who could be interested in it are other like rival companies, but they're not gonna like. I don't see a big company risking like their reputation by buying the shit on. You know what I mean? Because look, here's the thing. Hypothetically speaking, if this really did happen, because I have my doubts whether it happened or not. I don't want to be one of those like skeptics or like a conspiracy theorist, but it's like, especially reading this ransom note. Here's the thing. Either the people who hacked them are like pretty old because of the way that this note was written, because nobody talks like that anymore. You know what I mean? Either that, or it almost, because here's the thing, a lot of people are saying that it sounds like an old guy trying to sound young. So people are thinking that Cyberpunk like did this to themselves or whatever. I highly doubt they did this to themselves. I also highly doubt that this stuff was actually sold online. It could have been, but who, like you said, who would buy it? Hypothetically speaking, they do this, right? They go on the dark web, they sell all the information for whatever amount. They're not going to get the $7 million that they asked for. You know what I mean? Not on the dark web, that's for damn sure. They're going to get paid in crypto for one. So you're going to get paid. They probably got paid in Bitcoin, most likely, or some form of crypto, because that's what happens on the dark web. And then it's a case of like, well, I guess crypto is hard to track. So you could, if you were a rival company, do it like that. But you wouldn't risk that. You wouldn't risk your reputation.
Point, though?
Exactly. And you know that like, what are you going to get out of The Witcher 3? You know, what are you going to get out of the resources from The Witcher 3, a game that came out years ago? It's a great game, don't get me wrong, but like, shit, I'm sure whatever details you wanted to get from The Witcher 3, you could probably have like, what's the word I'm looking for? Reverse engineer the game. You know what I mean? If you really wanted to, you know, it doesn't make sense to me. So it's one of those things where if somebody did buy it, I highly doubt anybody bought it online. I'm sure they try to sell it on the dark web. Because here's the thing, they also said that like CD Projekt Red said that like the information they had nothing to do with the customers, or like there's no like email addresses or any like, the people who were affected were employees for the most part. So all the private information that the hackers do have is mainly for the employees, which is unfortunate. But it's like, once again, what are you going to do with that? You know, like the only people who could benefit from this are people who are like identity thieves trying to like steal the employees' identities with the private information that got leaked. That's the only.
What are you
and that's the only thing I can think of. It makes no sense.
The only people who can afford to pay for it don't need to buy it. That's my
exactly. It just doesn't make, and it's one of those things where like a lot of people, I don't think that CD Projekt Red did this, but a lot of people are saying that it's like, it almost seems like this happened so that the hate can go off of CD Projekt Red. Which I've said this before many times. I do not think CD Projekt Red deserves the amount of hate that it's getting. Yes, they screwed up with the PS4 version. Yes, they didn't lie to you. They just decided to keep certain information to themselves. You know, which I guess is lying. Depends how you look at it. But yeah, like CD Projekt Red, they fucked up, rightfully so. But like, I don't think they deserve as much hate as what they're getting. And it almost seems like if CD Projekt Red did this, I would be sad. I don't think they did, but it does seem a little like they did this to themselves, to be like, hey, look, we're getting attacked. Please take pity on us, you know?
I don't think it's worth it. Like I said.
Yeah. It just doesn't.
None of this people with these conspiracy theories is like, but why? You know what I mean? That's the overall, the big question. Is it really worth it? It's not really worth it. Why would it be worth it for CD Projekt Red to even do something like that, where they would get caught and people would find out, oh, they did it to themselves to gain sympathy? They'd look like even bigger losers. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly. None of this makes sense, Dennis. Here's the only thing.
People love conspiracy theories, though.
Here's the only other thing that would make sense to me, and in actual fact, this is what I think it is. I'm just skeptical because it hasn't happened yet, which is that this was all done for clout. Like, you got to remember, like 7-8 years ago, hackers would hack big companies for clout. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like no one knew about Omega Lol until like sorry, not Omega Lol, for the lols until they started like hacking Twitter and things like that. You know what I mean? But the only reason why I'm like skeptical on that is because if it was for clout, the hacker group would have come out by now and be like, "Yo, we were the ones who did it. Follow us. Check out our streams." You know. But yeah, I don't know. Nobody gained from this. You know what I mean? Nobody. CD Projekt. If this really did happen, the only thing that happened was CD Projekt Red. They lost a lot of pivotal information, and I'm sure the information they're most worried about is the private information of their employees. That's the information they're most worried about. And it's like they got hurt by it, but I don't see anybody gaining from this. Once again, the people who hacked them, like even in this note, yeah, you have been epically pwned. Oh my god, it's so cringy.
Yeah,
it's so cringy. But
they said that they think it's a ransomware group called Hello Kitty.
Yeah, because this is another thing that doesn't make sense to me. Why in this ransom note, why didn't they leave their tag? If it was by a group called Hello Kitty, they should have put Hello Kitty at the bottom of this ransom note. You know what I mean? Because they know that they're going to share it. You know, like you don't form a hacker group unless you want the attention. If you wanted to just hack, you would do it on your own, or you would do it with a group, but you wouldn't give yourselves a name. You wouldn't give yourselves an identity. You know what I mean? You would just be a hacker. You would, in actual fact, if having any form of identity would be stupid as a hacker. You know what I mean? You want to be completely anonymous.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the next one. There's a report that Anthem's next future is dependent on EA's upcoming internal review. So if people have been following Anthem at all, you know, it was a highly hyped project. It came out. It was, you know, it didn't do well because the game didn't seem like it was fully finished. And then later on, there was all these like articles about talking about how the game was rushed because, you know, that EA really liked the demo, but they really wanted to get it out soon. And so they pushed for it to come out soon. It just was half baked. And so the thing is, I've played the demo of Anthem. I haven't played it fully, but, you know, the demo was fun. The gameplay mechanics was fun. But apparently, I think the repetitiveness, there wasn't a lot of, you know, reason to come back to the game. There wasn't a lot of diversity in the gameplay mechanics. But anyways, they wanted to fix that, right? They dedicated a small team to kind of reboot Anthem in a way. Not for a new game, but they're calling it Anthem Next. And they were going to kind of fix it up. But apparently now, this may or may not happen. So, yeah, EA's going to take a look at it and say, like, is this worth it? It's just one of those things where, like, financially, probably not worth it. But for PR purposes, I think it might be worth it, you know, that people can, you know, come back to the game and play it and be like, okay. Kind of like what they did, Bethesda did for Fallout 76. When, you know, I first got Fallout 76, it was half baked, wasn't great. You know, I'd spent, you know, the full $50-$60 on it, barely played it at all. You know, I felt like I wasted my money. I didn't have a, you know, even though Fallout is one of my favorite video game franchises, I didn't leave a good taste in my mouth. It didn't turn me off from Fallout Forever, but, you know, just didn't feel that great. They come out with the update to it. I forgot the name of it because they had so many different modes or whatever. But I think it was Wastelanders. Yeah, I think that's what it's called. But they came out with that about a little over a year later because I think it got delayed. And I got it and I played it and I enjoyed it. And no, it didn't live up to the expectations of what I thought of Fallout 76 open world kind of MMO style game would be.
It lived up to people's expectations as a survival game, though, I think.
Yeah, but it at least bought back, and because it was free, the goodwill that it bought was like, okay, cool. Now I look more forward to what the next Fallout thing is. I mean, obviously they got bought by Microsoft, and we'll see if it becomes exclusive to Microsoft or whatnot. But what I'm saying is like, okay, that the disdain or the bad taste in my mouth wasn't, completely removed, but it wasn't as bad. So I feel like that's what doing this Anthem Next would do for the game. And stuff like what No Man's Sky did something like that.
I was actually going to bring that up because I think that's where they got the real idea for Anthem Next, is because No Man's Sky, we all know the story of No Man's Sky, but as the years went on, all of their updates, all their DLC has been free, but the real one that brought back their player base and actually, like, I want to say like doubled or quadrupled their player base just from releasing it, was an update called No Man's Sky Next. And I believe that was the first update where they actually properly added multiplayer. So like that's when I got back into the game as well. Like No Man's Sky Next was what got me hooked on No Man's Sky again. Well, I wouldn't say again, because the first time I was like only hooked for a day, and then I realized, wait, there's no real point to any of this. Like, where's all the things I was promised? You know what I mean? But yeah, No Man's Sky Next did an amazing, like, I think a lot of developers looked at that as a huge win. Like, whether even if, like, regardless of their outlook on Hello Games, that's impressive. You know what I mean? To do a free update like that out of your own time and money, and then bring back all your all the reviews were great from ever since No Man's Sky Next moving forward. Every update since then, people have been praising. The player base keeps increasing. You know what I mean? They obviously were very good with their VR update. So, because that's the issue with Anthem, right? Anthem is actually, the combat is great. The combat does not need to be improved. The issue with the game is that they focus so much on the combat. And also, like we said, the real shame here is that they only gave Anthem 7 months to make this game, which in comparison to most games are worked on for years, they gave Anthem 7 months because EA just wants money. The issue is that this beautiful world that they created is just like void of anything to do. That's like, yeah, it's fun and it's beautiful to fly around from point A to point B and then blow up people when you're at point A. But it's like the reason why missions are tedious is because they haven't filled up the world with enough things to do, activities to do. There's not enough side quests. The game's a little bit grindy. Like, I like to grind in my games, but it's like the grind's got to feel like, look, any kind of grinding is going to be repetitive, but at least like give me more things to look at or more things to do that makes it like slightly different. Missions started getting repetitive. The reason why I'm upset that they're not going to be sticking through with this is because you just need to add some more creativity to the game. The base game, like I said, the base game works. There's not really any major, especially now. Look, day one release, it was a sham, but now there's no, I played this at the end of last year. I played Anthem, like, I want to say in November or December of last year again. And I was enjoying it, not as much as what I think I could have, because the story was okay. The game was pretty empty, but it was the game was easy enough to understand, and I enjoyed the customization options. And it was one of those games where within playing it, the only thing I was thinking about was like, if this game was successful and if this game had a huge player base, I would be so excited to see what future DLCs they would be bringing, or like what even microtransactions for cosmetic purposes. I would be so there for it, because the cosmetic options in that game are they look sick. They look like really, really cool. You know what I mean? I think they actually do have some microtransactions in there, but once again, they're not worth it, because you don't want to show off your cosmetics if there's no one to show it off to. You know what I mean? If there's no players, what's the point of spending $10 on like a really cool skin if no one's going to see it, So I do think, here's why I think that they said that they'll come back to it eventually, and I believe them. And the reason why is because it would be stupid not to. They've put so much money and time into the game already. If they had to just abandon the game, that would be so stupid.
But that's the thing.
Money and time.
If they want to do an Anthem 2, then they've got to do this, right? Because no one's going to buy an Anthem 2 based on what they had with Anthem 1. What you need to do is rebuild and repair that image of the franchise by releasing a free update that fixes the things that people were complaining about, or flesh things out or whatnot. And then you can make an Anthem 2. But if you decide, okay, that's it, we're not doing Anthem Next, let's drop it, we're not going to do it, then you pretty much have given up on the franchise. You're not making an Anthem 2, because it just sounds because people will feel ripped off. Like, oh, well, you didn't do it right the first time, and now you quote unquote did it right the second time, but now we got to pay for it, right? So that's the whole deal.
The only way that could maybe work is if they did like a prequel. You know what I mean? Where like you don't have to have played the first game. That's the only way that I can see that model
the
working.
reputation of that game is tarnished. People are not going to
True. Because you gotta fix it. You're right. Because if they did No Man's Sky 2 instead of just fixing No Man's Sky, no, you're absolutely right. Nobody would have bought No Man's Sky 2. It was not until they fixed it. Like now, also because of the way that they fixed No Man's Sky, that is the most like loyal fan base I've ever seen in my life. Ever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they did like nowadays, if you go to any No Man's Sky forum, it's just positivity. Like there's not even like they don't even trash talk amongst themselves. It's like it's wonderful. Everyone's just like sharing their creations. The only thing people are complaining about No Man's Sky is the lack of PvP, but it's 50-50 because everyone's complaining that PvP would ruin the game for them. Because imagine spending hours on something and then someone comes in and just destroys it or steals it from you. But there's like ways around that.
Fallout 76.
Lock your world or whatever.
Fallout 76 doesn't have. They have PvP, but you have to like engage. Like,
yeah. So they want to do it in like I think No Man's Sky wants to enable PvP, but they want to have like a mode kind of like with GTA where it's like you can put yourself in non-PvP mode, so you can't be attacked and your things can't be destroyed, but you can still witness the PvP, which I think would be cool. But that's No Man's Sky. Anthem. I don't even think that they need an Anthem 2. I wouldn't even say if they need one. I don't like the way that the game works is it's one of those games where I can tell from the way that they built this game that they were expecting Anthem to be just Anthem, not have an Anthem 2 or 3, and just have Anthem going for as long as possible as a games as a service. And that seems that was their goal initially.
Everyone's trying to get those microtransactions, man.
Yeah, I think that they still could do that in the future. But another issue with Anthem is that there's basically no end game. Once you've finished that story, like there's no like they need to add like end game raids or like they need to add a lot more end game content. Also, a lot of people weren't happy with the way that the story ended. I never got that far in the story, so I can't have an opinion on that. But people said that the actual ending to the story was just very unrewarding. It was a very unrewarding ending. Nobody was happy with the outcome. So I think they might have to do some story fixes. That's for sure. My issue is that if they come back to this game in a year from now and they decide, okay, now we're going to do Anthem Next a year from now, I'm so worried that they're going to be too busy focusing on making sure that it looks good on next gen that they're going to completely ignore the biggest issue, which is the fact that the game is empty. You know what I mean? Like they need to add more life to the game, more and keep. Yes, I guess if you are going to be playing this game on a next gen console, you then have the processing power to be able to have more NPCs and have more wildlife and more fauna and flower and things like that. You know what I mean? Which the world itself is plenty. I think they just need to add more animals, more creatures, more enemies, more NPCs. Or just more like believable NPCs as well, which I think would be quite cool.
I mean, that was the thing with Fallout 76. It was empty. I mean, it's much more filled out now, but before it was very empty.
So I like I said, like the reason no one's gonna care about this news too much. Like they're gonna be like, whatever, Anthem sucked anyways. I don't care. But for people who did actually try to get back into it, like myself, it's sad because if you play Anthem right now. I'm not going to say you're going to have an amazing time, but you're not going to have a bad time like you did on day one release. If you play Anthem right now, you're going to have a fun time. Not an amazing time, but a pretty fun time. But the sad thing is that if you play Anthem right now, you're going to be... The real sad thing is you're going to realize what it could have been, and that's sad.
Yeah,
that's
I remember playing. I love the gameplay mechanics were a lot of fun to play. It was just
they are, yeah.
They just need to diversify stuff and make things.
Yeah. Or try to make. They got to also add more because, like, yes, the multiplayer is cool in the sense of you can chat to your friends in parties, but they should have added more like emotes or like ways to interact with players without having to talk to them through a mic or something. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or like they should have added like a hub or something because when you like, I think like because you never really see more than like when I played the game, I never really saw more than one or two other people because I don't think that they would have a lot of people in your instance or in your world if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Whereas like same with No Man's Sky, you're never going to bump into somebody, but if you go to their hub, you can bump into people all day. You can just sit there, you can e-beg for money, you know? That's what it also missed is like they really needed like a big central hub, just like Destiny or Destiny 2 has this hub where all the players meet, where you can actually have that social interaction.
Destiny is another perfect example of a game that came out and was kind of underwhelming and disappointed the fan base, but then they fixed it, and now people are like die-hard Destiny players, and then they were able to do Destiny 2, and then all these DLCs, and now people look forward to all these things.
And they learned from Destiny. And they learned from fixing Destiny 1. They learned what works and what doesn't work. Like if it wasn't for them,
but if they didn't fix it, no one would have bought Destiny 2.
Exactly. Specifically, and I think looking back to Destiny 1, what I think was what won back the players and made people happy was their 4th update, which is when they added melee weapons. And then moving forward, like Destiny 2, melee weapons is a big part of it, or like all those super moves you do and stuff. That wouldn't be there if it wasn't for those epic like melee weapons from the first Destiny game that they realized people liked so much. I don't think that they expected that, but from fixing Destiny 1, they realized, oh wow, you know what, we should. I mean, yeah, we're like a first-person shooter kind of type game, but we should definitely add some melee weapons. People like that, you know?
All right, let's move on to...
Hopefully they get back to it.
Microsoft is creating a new company called Vault to complete the ZeniMax Bethesda deals, that they're going to just fold everything that ZeniMax owns, which, included,
I like
a bunch
name.
of different studios, Bethesda, Arcane, Machine Games, all that, and it's going to be all... They're kind of creating it as like the separate entity so that they can still maintain some sort of independence. I mean, obviously they're still owned by Microsoft or whatnot, but Microsoft wants to kind of leave them alone and have them create these games that we don't know yet, but let's say hypothetically and probably leaning towards are going to be exclusive to the Microsoft platform, PC and Xbox. So yeah, they're creating this new company called Vault, and then they can
I think it's for legal purposes to make the merger easier, because the European Union has still not approved their acquisition, and I think that it seems to me like they're also doing this, like not just to let them do their own thing, like you said, but I think it's also for legal purposes to make the merger a lot easier and quicker. That seems to be a case here as well. You know?
Yeah, because all the other studios
I do like the name though.
Yeah. Well, Vault, Fallout,
Vault. Oh, it makes. How did I not click? Because Bethesda, Fallout. Oh my gosh! Wow. I'm a slow one today, man. I can't say I haven't had my coffee because I'm having a monster to wake up. But yeah, that gives me more hope, honestly. Like I was like, because by giving it its own name and its own thing, it's one thing for Microsoft to say, hey, look, we're not going to interfere with Bethesda. We're not going to like tell them what to do. And it's another thing to show us through their actions, hey, look, it's a separate entity. We own it, but it's going to be Vault is going to be its own thing. We're going to leave ZeniMax and Bethesda to do their stuff, you know?
Yeah. All right. Next thing, let's briefly go over this because actually you and me will be doing a spoiler review for the media game we've been talking about a lot lately. Let's just give a few overall non-spoiler final impressions because we both finished it. I'll start off first. I quite enjoyed this. I said this before. It was a surprise to me, this game, because I had seen it when they had done the Xbox Series X showcase, and I was like, maybe like it. And then when I actually started playing it, I was like, wow, this is right up my alley, Horror is not my thing, but it's not really, it's more of a psychological, supernatural thriller than a horror. I mean, there are horror.
Scary,
Yeah, there's horror elements, but it's very story-driven. Like I said, I get this Alan Wake Control type of feel to it. And overall, I was very happy with the game, with the storytelling, and it's much more of a puzzle, story-driven narrative. It's not an action game. There's actually more stealth than action in the game, but it's more story puzzles. So I don't know. Overall, I was very happy with it as quote-unquote Xbox's only first exclusive, Xbox Series X/S/PC exclusive. But yeah, we'll talk more about it. What are your kind of overall impressions after finishing it?
Overall impressions, I think, remember about a week and a half ago, we told people our impressions just based off of the first hour or two of gameplay, which is, or like the first, up until meeting the first monster or the main monster, however you want to look at it. And And we were both blown away at that point, and I highly recommended it, and I still highly recommend this game. But now I feel like I need to give a disclaimer, because as I as I was playing more and more of this game, and you find out more about the story, and if you read all the little notes and all the little messages lying around, the underlying things that happen, because this is spoiler free, so I'm not going to say anything, but just know that the underlying story, if you read between the lines as to what happened to these people in the past, it's you might need like a trigger warning for certain people, because it tends to deal with
traumatic experiences.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it. Yeah, you're dealing with traumatic experiences. So for some people it might be a little triggering. Actually, for a lot of people I think it would be, but like that's something to keep in mind as well. If you are triggered by traumatic experiences or things that deal with abuse, you know, that's the only word I can use without spoilers. Then that's something to keep in mind. That being said, dude, the puzzles in this game got me hooked, bro. Like, I kept wanting to play because these puzzles were so good. That for me is my biggest takeaway, is how good the puzzles were. But
because you're using two worlds. You're using two different worlds, and each one affects each other.
Like for me, like when they've added the adding in the mirror was a bit like every single time they added a new element, it was like a game-changing way to like think of how to do the next puzzle, the previous puzzle, or like when you unlock a new thing, you're like, oh, now I can do that puzzle from back then that I remember, and it's like a lot of back and forth. But like, I hate it when games do that thing where it's like you make progress and then it's like you got to go all the way back to this point and then redo things differently because now you have the item you need. Usually I hate that, but this game made it exciting for me. I was like, yeah, I finally got the thing. Time to go back to the lobby and do this. And man, I was right there. So the game's beautiful. It is visually beautiful in like that Guillermo del Toro creepy beautiful way. Like Pan's Labyrinth, I think, is a beautiful movie, but it's like creepy beauty. You know what I mean? I don't think the game is scary. I think the game is creepy, and it deals with some intense subject matter. It's the kind of game where you're it's gonna keep you up late at night, not because you're scared, but because you're just thinking about like really like the human psyche and like intense things. You know what I mean? Story's fantastic, voice acting and acting, all of those are fantastic. If you like puzzle games, definitely try this game out. You know what I mean? The story's good. It is beautiful. The game is actually beautiful, even when you go to the other world. And it's supposed to be scary, but there's something. I think because I think it's because I had RTX on. I think it's because I had ray tracing on. But honestly, there was even like a scene of like dangling like arms and legs, and I was like, wow, this is beautiful because it looks so good. You know, I don't know. It's one of those games. I do recommend it to people, but if you are one of those people that need a trigger warning for traumatic things, then maybe Google what the subject matter is before the time and see if you're comfortable with it before playing it. But yes, I was most surprised by the puzzle aspect of that game. Besides the amazing story and the amazing graphics, the puzzles.
I think that would be my warning to people is like going into it and playing it. This is not an action game. It's not a shooter. It's not Resident Evil. It is a story-driven narrative with puzzles in it. And when you had mentioned before about grinding and whatnot in games, I view puzzles the same way. Puzzles and grinding in games, like RPG games or whatever, if they have a narrative motivation for me, that's when I get excited to do them. I don't like puzzles just for puzzles' sake. I mean, I could, you know, you can play tons of games that are just purely just puzzles. You know what I mean? Like figure this out or whatever. But for me, I need a story to drive me. Why do I want to solve this puzzle? Just like for grinding. Exactly, why do I want to grind? Because it will let me achieve a certain thing that will open up another pathway or story or et cetera, et cetera. So there's just going to be some sort of motivation for me. And this one had it. Like it told a story that I wanted to know what was the real story behind X, Y, and Z, and who are these characters and all this stuff. And so I highly recommend it if you are a fan of those type of games. Yeah.
I think you hit the nail on the head there. Actually, that's because I was also wondering like why I don't usually like puzzle games, and like even looking back, like Final Fantasy X, you had to do these puzzles in like each little place where you unlock your next summon, and I hated those too. The reason I hate puzzles in games is because usually they're just there as a mechanic. They add no value to the story. They add no value to the world. It's just there because they're like, hey, we needed to make this part of the game a bit more complicated. So here's a puzzle. You know, like 8 out of 10 times a puzzle in a game, like you said, it's obsolete. Why is it even there? You know, I even think of games like Legend of Zelda. Legend of Zelda, there's a lot of puzzles in Legend of Zelda games. You know what I mean? But at least those they're fun. You know what I mean? If you're gonna have a puzzle in a game and it's gonna add no value to the story or the world, then it's got to be fun. But the reason why these puzzles are so good is because, like you said, you want to do them, not just because they're engaging, but because they actually add value to the story, or you're finding out things about the story whilst doing the puzzle. You know what I mean? It's a good way. They keep you invested. They keep you like. I remember when we spoke a week and a half ago, and we had just played the first 2 hours or so. I had to pull myself away because I was so invested in the next puzzle. I was like, I saw like the bolt cutters. I was like, I want to go get those. How do I get those? You know?
Yeah. Those are a pain in the ass to get. All right, let's move on. We'll have a spoiler review where we get to talk about we actually get to talk about the puzzles and about the story and everything about it.
Subject matter,
yeah. So we'll have that up soon. The last thing on my list, and I know you have a few things as well, but this one when we talked about Nintendo, about the whole Legend of Zelda Netflix series being canceled because it was leaked or whatever. This is just typical Nintendo. So there was a GoldenEye GoldenEye is a very revered first-person shooter. GoldenEye 007, the remaster, was canceled by Nintendo with only a few bugs left to fix. Former team members said there were only 90 bugs. I mean, 90 may sound a lot, but 90 bugs in a game is like nothing. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, that's when you're about to wrap up a game. But anyways, apparently they had developed it and it was going to be on the Xbox 360. It was going to be a remaster. They were just going to upgrade the graphics, upgrade the character models, but they weren't going to change much to the game. But apparently someone very, very high up had not approved it, and by the time they had it ready to go, they were like, we're not putting that out. We're not putting a Nintendo game out on a Microsoft console. So then they killed it. So just another example of something cool, something fun, that people could have got into, and for no real reason. I mean, there was a reason, but just if you're not going to bring it to your own console and you already have one that's 95% done, 99% done, why don't you just release it? Anyways, I thought that was an annoying story.
I have so many things to say about Nintendo and that, but I'll keep it. But it's the same things I always say about it, which is just archaic business practices. Every single time Nintendo does something like this, it's just because they care so much about money, man. Like, they would still make money releasing this game on another platform. You know what I mean? But they're like, but it's not enough money. It's not, you know what I mean? It's so stupid to me. The whole reason that they stopped people from playing Smash Melee online was because they couldn't make money from it. They're like, people are playing the Super Smash Bros. From the 90s, and they're getting mad about that because they can't make money from that. You know what I mean? Instead of playing the new Smash. It's just it's stupid. And because truly they could have found a way where they could have still made money from this. You know what I mean? Or even going back to that Smash incident, they could have done so many other things where they could have profited off of it, or at least kept the fans happy. If you can't make money off of it, sometimes companies like this need to do something not because it's profitable, but because they need the good PR. You know what I mean? Or they need the good graces. And Nintendo's not that worried because of how big they are as a company and how much of a family console the Switch is that the only people who are bothered by Nintendo's their practices as a company are gamers or people who are more invested in their games. Most people who own a Nintendo Switch are casual gamers, family gamers. They're not going to care about how Nintendo runs itself as a business. You know what I mean? But this is stupid because it's a huge game and they know that. They know that this game would sell so well. So well. I don't understand why they do this. It's like when they leaked the freaking Legend of Zelda movie and they're like, nope, that can't happen anymore. I don't know if it has to do with I don't know if it has to do with their culture, or I got no clue, man. It just seems really old and archaic, and it doesn't make any sense. The game was pretty much done. Just release it. look, you're gonna release it on the Switch anyways. You know what I mean? Like that's.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, wait. So hold on. What was the biggest issue here? Was that it was gonna be, it was gonna be a 360 release. This was like way back when, right?
Yeah, this is 2007, I believe.
Oh, you know what? I actually wanted to bring up another game, and I wonder if this has anything to do with it. But one of my favorite games on the PlayStation 2 was 007 GoldenEye. Like, it wasn't a remake or a remaster, and actually, in fact, it had nothing to do with the movie GoldenEye at all. It had to do with a new agent, and and it's called GoldenEye because his eye was literally replaced with like a cybernetic eye. And I love that game. It was literally like a spiritual successor to GoldenEye. So I wonder if the team who worked on that decided, hell, we're just gonna do our own GoldenEye and just keep it 007, but have it nothing to do with the original GoldenEye. You know what I mean? I was just literally just looking up that. That's so weird. It's the same era as well because it was 2000 and.
It says GoldenEye Rogue Agent.
Yeah, that came out in 2004, but I've always thought of that game as like a spiritual successor to the GoldenEye game on the N64, just because the gameplay was kind of similar. You know what I mean?
I remember I played a Bond game on, I think it might have been the original Xbox, and it was like similar, but not like whatever. What is this? Agent Under Fire? I think that might have been it. 007 Agent Under Fire. Like, that was a fun game. It wasn't as good as GoldenEye, but it was still fun.
Okay. I literally misread this article. Yeah. Okay. So my opinion is very different then. But yeah. Okay. So that makes sense because they didn't back then. In about 2006, 2007, they weren't really. That was when they did the Wii. You know what I mean? And the Nintendo Wii wasn't that's not something you're going to be playing a remake of GoldenEye on. You know what I mean? Like the Wii wasn't really built for games like that. In actual fact, whenever they did games like that, they usually didn't do very well. You know what I mean?
No.
At least not on that platform.
Made for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, no. This does make sense to me. Like they still would have made some money if they released it on the Xbox 360, but if considering they didn't really have their own proper console at that time and they weren't nearly as popular as they are now, Nintendo was still very popular because obviously it's Nintendo. But we all know that Nintendo in the past 2 years has become more popular and well-known than what they were for the past 20 or 30. You know what I mean? For cultural reasons and pop culture reasons and stuff like that too. But still, what doesn't make sense to me is that like it's been what 13 years, like 13 or 14 years. Yeah. Why haven't they just released it on the Switch? Like, I mean, look, the game doesn't have to look good. Just the fact that it can run on a newer console, like it can literally be the old school GoldenEye. And if I could play it on Switch, I'd be happy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you sell it for $10, and people will be buying that.
Exactly.
Like mad, you know.
They don't even have to like the amount of effort they would have to put in porting this game.
Perfect game for a Switch.
Yeah, it's like. I don't know, man. Like that, but like that, I just don't like Nintendo as a company. I love their games, love their games. I do not like them as a company. Mm-hmm. Oh man, like these types of things, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like I guarantee you, whoever made this decision is still on the board of directors making the same type of stupid decisions. You know what I mean? Okay, well, sorry to reiterate, I don't think it was that much of a stupid decision because of where Nintendo was at that point in time in 2006, 2007. Like none of their like unless they decided to, if it's just it wouldn't have worked on the Wii. It would not have worked on the Wii. It would not have worked on the Wii U later on either. It just wouldn't have worked on their console. And the amount of money they would have made on the Xbox 360, I think, would have been beneficial. But I wonder if I mean surely it would have covered, and it definitely the money they would have made from an Xbox 360 release should have covered their development costs for the remake. But I guess it just wasn't enough for them. You know what I mean? And if they were maybe they were holding on for the right time. They're like, we can always do this later. But now it's been 13 years. Honestly, a good time to have done it would have been like literally when they released the Switch, like the first Switch. You know, that would have been a perfect time to like have brought this out as well. But then again, I guess they had Breath of the Wild. I don't know. This is something I can talk about for like forever. So we should probably move on because I can literally talk about it forever. And I shouldn't, because we're here and we don't have the game. So what's the point? You know what I mean? I wish we had the game, but we don't.
They said that it leaked online, if you can find it.
Oh,
So
Okay.
GoldenEye for the Xbox 360 is
Not the
Elite
bug though,
Online. So
but
if
it's not that much
you can
bugged.
grab it and dust off your old 360, or maybe they have a ROM for it.
Yeah, it's probably a ROM, I'd imagine.
Oh yeah, here's
Probably a
some
360 ROM
unreleased. Oh my god, this guy played for like 2.5 hours.
on YouTube.
Looks nice. I mean, for obviously
For 2000, for that like
yeah,
PlayStation 3 era,
I'm taking a look at it. It's like not bad. I mean, because I'm so used to what the N64
the original looks like, yeah.
version looked like, but yeah, this looks solid.
Uh,
Anyways, all right. I think that was my last thing on my news. What do you have?
I got two. Let's talk about Valve's future headset that they're working on, I guess. This was relatively big news in the VR scene.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who watch a lot of anime, the way this headset looks might even make you think of Sword Art Online. But essentially, they're I don't want to subscribe to. Go away. Oh, I hate it when websites do that, man. Independent. I'm banishing you from my catalog ever. Well, let me click on a different link here real quick because I want to get the name right. They're always using these like technical names.
Mm-hmm.
OpenBCI and Toby. Valve to launch. Yeah, so it's a brain Gallia, as that's what they're calling it. They're hoping to release it as early as 2022, and essentially it's going to look just like your Valve headset, but there's going to be all around the Valve headset. There's going to be little sensors that are going to be monitoring your brain movement and the way your brain works. And essentially,
getting one step closer to the Matrix, basically.
Yeah, getting one step closer to the Matrix. And like Gabe Newell himself said that when they're even considering if they actually should release a product or not in 2022 because they're rapidly advancing in this technology so fast that by the time they release a product in 2022, they'll already have a much better product theoretically a week later. You know what I mean? So they're just waiting to see where it goes. But Gabe Newell is saying that when we're done with this technology, and he's not saying now, but maybe 10 years or 15 years from now, using this technology, it will destroy any other forms of media. All other form of media will be obsolete. That's the term he used.
Yeah, because it's going to be like the Matrix. You're going to sit in and anything you want to dream of or think of or whatever.
Well, it's not visual, so we got to keep that in mind. This is all for. It seems like this will have everything to do with interaction in virtual reality. So our experiences are still going to be limited to how good the computer screens are in front of our eyes. You know what I mean? Or how good those, because it's not. They haven't gotten to the point where they're feeding off of our brain. They're not putting anything into our brain. So they won't be able to put visuals into our brain. Mm-hmm. They're more getting things out of our brain. So it's more about our interactions with things and our experiences with things. I'm sure. I think of one of the most useful things would be instead of having to click a button to move forward, if you just thought to yourself, move forward, and then you start moving forward. You know what I mean? I can think of ways where they could be beneficial in that way. You know what I mean? But yeah, they're just getting so close to it. In actual fact, the reason why they're and I know that they're getting close to it because there's a couple third-party companies that have already started releasing their own attachments to VR headsets like the Quest 2 or the Index, which is literally just, I've already seen it. It's like a circular device that you attach to the back of your head that monitors your brain movements and the way your brain works like that too. Now that one's not going to work nearly as well as the Valve one because it's only a couple of sensors at the back of your head. Valve is going to have sensors all over your head, going everywhere reading. Because if it only reads one part of your brain, it's going to be it's going to be very limited because I look at this technology. I used to play a game that had the similar technology, but you had to have all the heart rate monitors and all these things on your hands, and you had to play games using thought. And all it really was at that point was just the more you concentrated, the more you could do things. So it was if you had to lift up a bowl, you would have to just concentrate really hard or do math in your head 6 times 8, and just by concentrating the ball would move. You know what I mean? I was that's a gimmick. It's a novelty. That's not really what we're looking for. But that was fucking 15 years ago, I think. So now I'm sure it's insane. I'm sure it's to the point where we're getting where I don't think it's going to be movement related because obviously real movement is going to feel better if you're actually physically moving your hands. It's going to be more immersive than thinking about moving your hands. But think about games like Control, for instance. Imagine playing a game like Control in VR, where instead of like clicking a button to like blow something away with your mind, you just think it. You know, like that. I'm gonna blow that up with my brain, and then you do. You know, like that's. I think of those the kind of mechanics that they're gonna add in the future. I think are really exciting for this type of stuff. I gotta make sure, so yeah, at least that's the grasp I'm getting from it. Like, look, once they get to the point where they can put the visuals in our brain and we don't need the screens anymore, that's gonna be game changing as well. Because look, then you don't have to worry about motion sickness. You don't have to worry about how good your screen resolution is, etc., etc. But we're just getting that one step closer to having our Oasis, if you will. You know, we're getting that one step closer to actually having the Matrix. And like Gabe Newell himself said, he's like, look, the Matrix, it's we're not far off from that, you know what I mean, with the technology that they're working on right now. So yeah, it looks quite interesting, the designs that they have for it out so far. There's like a patent for it. I'll see if I can post it in the Revog Games thing. Or if you're interested in looking it up yourself, it's called the interface is called Galea, Galea. And the design is quite interesting. It actually looks comfortable, oddly enough, even though some people would say it looks constricting. I feel like it would be comfortable because it looks like it has a lot of counterweight to whatever headset they're going to be using. So that's my initial reaction to the product. Physically, looks like it's got a lot of counterweight, and looks like the weight is very balanced. So when it sits on your head, it's not going to be putting too much pressure anywhere else. You know what I mean? Except for maybe the top of your head, which looks really padded. And these sensors kind of look like hairbrushes. I don't know if you're also looking at the same image I am, Dennis, but these little sensors all over they look like little hairbrushes, but like with really thick bristles almost. So that's quite. I think that seems like it's there for comfort purposes, because I think that there's probably little tiny lasers in each of those little bristles, if you were, or whatever you want to call them. It looks like there's going to be those are the sensors, or the sensors are inside of those, and it almost looks like these little plastic coverings are there just so that you're not getting poked with like sharp objects. You're just getting poked with something soft instead to read your brain movements and stuff like that. It does look really good though. And then hold on. So yeah, it's OpenBCI is working on it. Toby is working on like eye tracking. You know what I mean? They just VR is really going far. Like that's all we can say. For those who aren't that interested in the technology and the behind the scenes, just know that things are moving at a rapid pace for VR. I mean, they have for a while, but now they're really moving at a rapid pace. And if you should have, if anybody who's interested in VR, I'm sure they noticed the difference between the Quest 1 and the Quest 2. That should already tell you just how far and how quickly we are advancing in VR technology. So much so that it's like, by the time I finally have my money to put down on the Quest 2, I'm probably just going to wait for the Quest 3, because the Quest 3 is probably going to come out, what, I want to say early next year, most likely.
Well, yeah. Next year. I keep forgetting today's 2021. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I think early 2022 maybe.
End of first quarter, 2022 is my guess.
That's what I'm thinking
March,
as well, because they're
April.
They're ready, man. They're ready. But mind you, the newest update is probably going to be for the more finger tracking and and with the cameras. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the eye tracking.
I mean, the resolution already got better from the Quest 1 to the Quest 2. It became lighter, smaller. The battery, the technology for the control. It's funny. The controllers used to eat batteries like crazy on the Quest 1. The Quest 2, I've had it since October now. Now I don't play I don't play like all day every day or something like that. But I played enough. The right.
You played a lot of Half-Life Alyx with it, so yeah.
The right controller is just starting to die. The battery,
wow, that's insane.
You're talking about like this used to I would have to change batteries like every week, basically. Once a week I would change batteries, and now it is. Yeah, I don't know what they did, but they figured something out. So
man, they really made moves with the Quest 2, especially in terms
the Quest
of price.
2. They really wanted to be like,
spot, man.
Yep,
that
$300.
That like sweet money spot, man, or cheaper if you don't get like some of the extra attachments. I think it's like $260 or $265. Yeah, I've seen the prices as low as that, like minus some attachments. Because I think some people are selling the headset without the controllers because the old controllers work as well. I don't know. I've seen cases like that too. But
Mm-hmm.
the point is, VR rapidly advancing. Even like I think of the finger tracking that Microsoft showed off at. Facebook showed off at Facebook Connect, and even finger tracking has advanced rapidly in the past year because of VTubers. Do you know what a VTuber is or a V streamer? They're people who
No.
do YouTube or stream, but they use virtual avatars, like they use 3D
Oh,
models.
okay.
Now,
Yeah.
there's a program because I've been trying to build my own VR tuber as well, kind of
Mhm.
thing. So I just because I like the idea of being able to do YouTube and stream anonymously. I like that idea. I've been doing it augmented reality for a while, where I use Snapchat filters to like hide my face. But this seems like next level. And there's a program I actually tried out. I tried out the free version because I think it's a Japanese program. It's called Luppet. And I think like the personal version, it's what was it? It was 500 yen or 5,000 yen or something. It's about $50 roughly. It's about $50. I haven't bought it yet. I'm going to, but I tried out the free version, which obviously has the huge copyrighted logo at the bottom of my screen when I use it. But just using my webcam, the finger tracking, Dennis, is insane. You know what I mean? I mean, the head tracking and eye track, head, lip movements, all that stuff is what they focus on. But lately, they've been doing more and more updates just on finger tracking. And when I look at the finger tracking just through my webcam, I can already imagine what the Quest 3 is going to be doing in terms of having the cameras. Because the software, like Luppet software, it's not very resource heavy. You just have to make sure that your webcam is not being used by any other programs. You're only using it for Luppet, and then you're using Luppet as a source for wherever you want to show the video. You know what I mean? And like the finger tracking like that on that is insane. So I can only imagine that that's going to be a big thing with the Quest 3. The only issue with finger tracking is that as cool as it is, it doesn't work well for picking things up in VR. You know what I mean? Which leads us to my next topic.
Yeah, I mean, before you get into it, I prefer finger tracking is a very cool technology, but at the same time, I like the haptic feedback on controllers. You know what I mean? Like, for example,
I agree. That
if you're
vibration, that little feel.
if you're shooting something, right? I've got a trigger on the controller. It's not like a gun, but it's close enough that I get that feeling of it. Versus if I have hand tracking and let's say it can register me just twitching my finger, but I don't physically feel that. So this next topic that you're going to bring up is a solution to that.
Yeah. So, I mean, for a lot of those who are listening or watching, I'm sure you've heard of the term haptic feedback. If you've ever seen the movie Ready Player One, they have those haptic feedback suits where you can feel everything on the suit. Haptic feedback is essentially just a thing where it's like you're getting feedback from the virtual world in a physical feeling or physical setting. That's the best way I can describe it. And there's a lot of companies out there working on like haptic suits and haptic gloves and haptic everything. You know what I mean? I've seen a couple people try to work on their own haptic full body suit, but that's the only thing that can do by the looks of things is bullets. Like you'll be able to feel individual bullet impacts, not at full force, of course, but you'll be able to. If you're getting shot in the chest, you can feel it. I think that's kind of cool. A little gimmicky at the moment. Excited to see what that goes to the future. But what we're English. What we're going to talk about today is the Haptix or Haptics, or just spelled Haptix. And they just launched their own gloves. The development kit too. They just released the DK2 haptic VR gloves for enterprise. They look a bit bulky. They look really bulky and really beefy, to be honest. But a lot less so than what I thought it was going to be, all things considered. So the gloves do all fit on your hand, which is nice. And there's like quite a bit of bulk on your like wrist and arm, like to keep the battery and all like the electronical components there. The gloves themselves are very movable. Like you can obviously, like there's no point in having a haptic feedback glove if you can't move your fingers and articulate everything the way you want to. You're able to move your hands and articulate as much as you want to. The only thing that gets in the way, like I said, is this back thing, but you're not really moving your hand that way too much. You know what I mean? At least from my experience in games. It looks kind of cool too. It does look a little clunky, but the point is every single person who's tried this out says that it is the most convincing and immersive experience that they've had so far. Here's what I find really exciting about it is that the force feedback system. So the way the gloves work is they've got these sensors on the inside of the gloves that like can apply pressure and things like that. But they've also got these, and they've got the cables running on the outside.
Yeah.
But the sensors on the inside, they can apply up to 40 pounds of resistance. So if you're holding something, if you're like about to squeeze a pole in VR, or if you're going to hold a ball, you can actually feel the resistance in your hand. Like your hand will not be able to physically close unless you can fight off the 40 pounds of strength. You know what I mean? So it'll actually, that's really impressive. 40 pounds of resistance per hand, by the way. Each hand, 40 pounds, 40 pounds. Like, it'll actually physically feel like you're picking things up. They tested this in VR by playing a game of catch. You know what I mean? Just playing a simple game of catch, throwing a ball from point A to from one person to another, and then catching it. And even though they haven't gotten to the point where it doesn't look as smooth, apparently it feels real, which is like, that's awesome for me. Also, here's another really cool thing about these. So I'm holding up my hand here. So there's, like I said, they've got all the sensors. Now in the fingers, they have the things that pull it back, but on the palm, as well as certain spots on the fingers, they have little like things that shoot air out at your hands. So you can like, if you're just, so even for like gentle things, like if you're stroking a wall, it'll actually feel like you're stroking it, because it's like, because it'll push like air against certain spots as you're like running your hand against it, which is insane. So not only, because like haptic feedbacks, of course you want to feel things you can hold, but I'm always thinking about, what about the subtle things? Like if I had to stroke someone's face, could I feel that? You know what I mean? And in these gloves, yes, you can get the subtle feelings all across your hand, or you can get the resistance of holding something. So yeah, big moves. Unfortunately, this is the development kit 2, which means that it's only really for developers. Look, you can get it yourself. You can get it yourself if you want to. But if you don't really know how to use development kits, I don't recommend that. Also, it is expensive. I don't yeah, they haven't announced the price, but they're speculating that it's currently like I think it's going to cost you somewhere around like $2,700 just to be able to like get the development kit. Maybe, I'm not too sure. You know, that's obviously a price that'll get drastically reduced in the future. But as of where they're at, it's a very expensive product, and it's really only for developers. But exciting stuff moving forward. You know,
I mean, that's the thing about technologies is, usually technology is far more advanced at a price. For example, whatever Apple is working on their VR that they're expecting to sell for $3,000, you know, with 8K displays, I'm sure that thing's gonna be a fantastic VR device. The question is, you know, it's not affordable for the average consumer. That's why, like, to me, the Quest is so exciting, because one, it's not attached to any type of PC. The price point and the quality of the games, yes, it's not the equivalent to what you're getting out of a PC VR game, especially if you have a very powerful graphics card. But it's, you know, like most things in life, good enough, right? Like cell phone cameras have gotten so much better since they first started. When they first started, you people could use them to take pictures, but really you would never take a picture that was like worthy of like memory saving, you know, saving for memories for your life. And then it got good enough where it does. It's still not better than if you bought like, you know, a DSLR camera, or, you know what I mean, like an expensive mirrorless camera or whatnot. But it's good enough, and that's why I feel like Oculus Quest 2 is going to be, or Quest 3 or whatever is going to be in the future. The Quest line is good enough VR for most people.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Moving forward, they're not really, like, at least from the companies themselves, they've also said currently they have no plans on being a consumer product. Their main goals are military and medical, which makes a lot of sense.
That's where money is.
That's where the money is. And it also makes a lot of sense because you already have a lot of those people in those fields are already using VR and AR. You know what I mean? A lot of in the medical field, they use it quite a lot to do like operations and stuff. And now if they have haptic feedback, that's going to, like, especially I'd imagine for military training as well, military and medical, like, it's going to be so much better to be able to actually train with the physical haptic feedback instead of just getting the visual experience. You're now getting the physical experience with it. So, but that being said, as they make their money, you know what I mean? Like, if they're going to sell these off to the military and the medical industry, they're going to make their money, and then eventually they will go consumer, which is their goal.
Or license out the technology to someone else that will make it a consumer.
They got to make their money first. I got to add as well, because I did make it sound like it's not that big. On your hands, they're, like I said, they're clunky, but they're not that clunky. Unfortunately, because of what I explained with like the air pressure and like it pushing air against you, you do have to have a backpack on, which is essentially It looks like it's an air canister, an air filter, or an air pump of some sort. It doesn't look too heavy, but obviously wearing a backpack can be a bit clunky. You don't really want to wear a metal backpack. But moving forward, as I said, like in years from now, when they do make this a consumer product, I have a feeling that backpack is going to be much smaller, because if it is just for the air compression, then you don't need a big backpack. Hell, you could use, depends on how long you want to play for, really. You can use much smaller CO2 canisters, for instance. You know what I mean? Because the backpack does look a bit big and clunky at the moment. But keep in mind, this is the development kit too. This is not even a consumer product yet. Like you said, they might license it out. The point is the technology exists. And eventually we as consumers will have it, because that's where more money is. You know what I mean? Once they get it to a price point that's affordable.
Yeah, definitely. All right. You have anything else?
No, that's about it. I mean, I got a bunch of other things, but we're going to save that for this Friday.
Yeah.
We're going to save it for the podcast this Friday, just so we got some stuff to talk about. But yeah, we'll most likely talk about, I guess it's worth mentioning here, but we'll talk about it more on Friday. But Valheim blew up.
Yeah.
Valheim,
like overnight.
Valheim is it's a survival game built by 5 people, and it's a survival game just like Rust or any other survival game, but it's just set in the Viking era, and it just blew up. And I played a bit of it. I actually played a bit of it. And it is pretty fun, and it's really in the early stages of the game. But it's gonna, like, I can already tell that this game's gonna go far as long as they keep updating it. Cool. And it blew up because of Twitch, just like Among Us. We saw these games. It blew up because it's multiplayer, and because it's another game for people to play on Twitch. Casually multiplayer, you know what I mean? Like Twitch is a place where games like that, social games, blow up on Twitch because they're more entertaining to watch people interact with each other. Like, you still get people who watch people stream Fortnite or Apex or that, but they're not talking as much, you know what I mean? Because it's such an intense game. You're so focused on shooting or winning, you know what I mean? Whereas games like these, they give you the time to actually interact with the person you're playing with, and it's just more entertaining to watch. So yeah, it blew up. It blew up because of Twitch and other reasons. But yeah, we'll talk more about the mechanics and the game itself on Friday.
Cool. All right, guys. I think that's it for this episode. Make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel, youtube.com/Revog Games. Actually, no, it's just /Revog. The Twitter is at Revog Games. You can follow me on Twitter at ThinkHero or Instagram Dennis.tzng. We'll be here every week. We'll be here sooner because it's already I think by the time you guys see this is Wednesday, so we'll have a Friday show in just a few days. And we'll also have that medium spoiler review up as well. Anything else you want to say, Josh, before we sign off?
No, if to those of you who are listening and watching, thank you so much for your support over the past couple of months / year, and thanks for bearing with us through everything. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe as usual. Hit that bell to get our notifications, and join our Discord group, because that is the best place to catch me. If you guys have got any questions about anything, you guys can just @ me in the Discord group. I'm more than happy to talk. But remember to @ me, because otherwise I won't get the notification.
Yeah. All right, guys. Until next time. See you guys later.
See ya.